Shalom. I saw something, so I got to say something. I've put these kind of videos out before about the protecting single motherhood will be the death of men and children. Okay. I've noticed that the so-called black community has a cancer that's plaguing the race of so-called blacks. And one of the cancers that is plaguing so-called blacks is the oppression brought on by the single motherhood. Single motherhood has plagued the so-called black community to a point of death, and the children are suffering as a result of single motherhood. Now, widows are exempt from this conversation. I don't blame widows. I blame single mothers whose intentions are to bring forth life into the world after they've made the bad decision of choosing who they choose to lay down with and create life with. I have both my parents, so I'm not a product of a single mother. But what I've noticed is single motherhood itself has a lot of support and has a lot of fans who support single motherhood. And single motherhood, like this woman, she's a case of single motherhood. The fathers lose their children to single motherhood. Fathers have no access to these children, and fathers have no input into how these children are being brought up. Fathers in the so-called black community lose sight of their children by way of these mothers and their mothers and other mothers who are bad influences over these children. It's 2024, and I believe in 2023 we should have left behind the support of single motherhood. They have the worst types of children. Their children are gangbangers and thugs and thieves and criminals, okay? The problem with the so-called black community is the children of single motherhood. They have the most support because they are looked at as they're doing a good job with the children. A good mother is a mother that loves the father of the child, and the mother and the father together have the right value system and spirituality to guide these children. It seems as if the so-called black community, their children are only being raised to be a part of the environment. They have their children are the ones mostly working on these jobs. The parents, to me, the so-called black community, is only raising their children to get jobs and to become debtors. If I'm raising my child to live according to the Most High and what He wants my child to know, then I'm not just going to pull back my parental leadership or guidance once I've taught my child how to get a job and pay bills and stuff like that. I believe if that's all a child is being raised to do, is to get a job, go out into society and be a debtor, and to learn how to do for themselves, then that age limit is determined by each individual person. You know what I'm saying? That's to each his own kind of behavior. So there is no village mentality. There's no, the parental leadership can pretty much be turned off at every parent's discretion. There is no age limit, and there's no age limit, and there's no age limit as far as the child is too young to give up on being parental, or there's no age limit on a child is too old to be given up on being parental. So I've seen parents give up on a child when they were 6 years old because they feel like this child is old enough to not I don't know, old enough to take care of himself, to make decisions and do things. So we leave it up to each parent's. It's up to each parent's discretion. It's at each parent's discretion as to what age a child is old enough to do all these types of things. But what I've noticed is plaguing the so-called black community is single motherhood and the support of single motherhood. Okay, I know a lot of brothers who don't have access to their children. I know a lot more brothers than that that don't that lost their children to single motherhood, and the mothers do not regard the fathers as being a father unless they're in a relationship with this father. They don't notify the father before they make decisions regarding this child, and fathers are not even in the mood to go through the court systems to enforce their rights. Okay, as far as the types of rights that will force the opposite parent to have his consent or his permission before they do things with his child. So we have this we can't even collectively agree on what parental values are unless it has something to do with America's court systems, right? So the spirituality doesn't even exist when it comes to a father being a father and the mother's natural order being in place to where she's subjected to getting the man's permission and consent before she makes decisions with this child. Okay, I have a personal experience with this single motherhood. Okay, and I totally disagree, and I do not support single motherhood. I do not engage with single mothers as far as on a personal, intimate level. Okay, I've totally wrote off the single motherhood, and I noticed that the single motherhood is damn near a cult, and that's where these so-called black women in their communities are regarded as God. Okay, children only listen to the mothers, and the mother teaches this child to only do what she says. Okay, and that's why, from my personal experience with these children, we lose our children to this single motherhood because single motherhood is selfish, and it raises the child. Well, they badly influence the children to only do what the mothers say. Okay, and it carries over into other parts of authority. Okay, they'll have authority issues when it pertains to the police or when it pertains to a crime. Okay, I've seen children call their mothers when they were getting pulled over by the police. I've seen the police give adults commands to follow, and they're on the phone with their mothers. They want to call their mother. Okay, I've seen gangbangers put everything on their mamas. My mama this, my mama that. That's on my mama, and all this kind of stuff. I've seen people pay homage to just their mothers and not their fathers, and all this kind of stuff. So it's a bad cancer that plagues the so-called black community that goes unspoken. Okay, and it's not being talked about enough because we're growing up in this very so-called blacks do not collectively agree that they come from their fathers and their mothers are supposed to acknowledge the natural order. They don't agree on the natural order, okay? We don't agree on stuff like that. So we have these worst cases where these children are losing their life due to this single mother, and the fathers don't exist, okay? The father's covering doesn't exist. The women don't fall under a man's leadership and his covering, okay? And they don't believe that they have to acknowledge this father if he's not involved with the mother directly, like a relationship, marriage, and things like that. So we see a lot more single mothers out here. The numbers exist. If you want to go check out the numbers of how many households don't have a father in them, then okay, then they exist, okay? So, and this is only going to wax worse with these single mothers. So let me see. Tragedy strikes as woman fatally stabs her 10-year-old sister in bizarre murder case that has left community in shock, which I doubt. And the community is just another community of single mothers, and the son and the children of single mothers. They're probably the ones talking about this the most. All right, but again, in a so-called black community, these so-called black women are regarded as gods, and they can do no wrong. So it doesn't matter what these black women do, these so-called black women do. They're never going to lose the love and support of these children. And I believe the children are the only ones that really support these mothers the most. Once these children turn their backs on their mothers, then the beginning of the awakening and we'll start to see a change with these so-called black women. But I believe the only ones that do not give up on these mothers are the children. Okay, the men have already given up on these women. All right, the men that these women were in relationships with or something, or men that have the potential to be in relationships with these women, men that are of age and who have some sense, they've given up on these women, all right? But the only ones that have not given up on these women are the programs, the agencies, and the children. And that's why these women continue to exist, because of the support that they have left, okay, which are the children, other women just like them in the communities, other so-called black mothers who children regard them as the first and the only and the last and all of that, okay, and who regard these women as gods and stuff like that, okay. So right before I get into this, I'm gonna go here. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. It might not even be in here. Okay. The wickedness of a woman. All right. Give me any plague but the plague of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman. All right. And again, the woman is wicked. Okay. The so-called black woman is wicked, and she's and her wickedness is protected. Okay. They're talking about protect black women. No, protect the children from black women. Protect yourself as a so-called black man against a black woman. She's wicked. In this society of America, she's been protected, and it's and she's pretty much off limits for criticism and correction. There's no correcting the so-called black woman. She's wicked. All right. And we're not even getting into her only promoting her image, her sexuality. She's all over the place promoting her sexuality. It's damn near legal for her to be a damn prostitute. It's legal for her to go out here and destroy her family, and to prioritize her selfish ways and her destructive ways. Okay, we have too many of this. It's too much of this going on today. Okay, this woman right here, in a devastating incident that has left the North Carolina community in shock. A 22-year-old woman, Kenija Zaire Bradley, has been charged with murder after her 10-year-old sister was found stabbed to death. So she stabbed her sister to death. All right, and she discarded her sister in the backyard. All right.
A woman in the East has been arrested and charged with murder after deputies say they found a 10-year-old child dead with multiple stab wounds. The Halifax County Sheriff's Office says they arrested 22-year-old Kenija Bradley and charged her with murder. Deputies initially went to the 2000 block of Beaver Dam Road just outside of Enfield for a reported missing child on Tuesday. Officials say the mother found the child dead in the backyard. Further investigation showed that the 10-year-old victim had been dead and had been stabbed with multiple stab wounds, according to deputies. Bradley, who's from Enfield, is the victim's sibling, according to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office says the motive of the stabbing is still under investigation and record dead.
See, and I don't know, exactly why, what the motive is, but I mean, listen, these children should be with their fathers as long as their fathers are sane, and not a threat to the child's upbringing. A lot of these, so-called black women will kill the child because the father was awarded custody, or they will take the child's life because she rather the child be deleted before the father is allowed to see the child. A lot of these so-called black women have mental disabilities where they don't need children either. They don't need to be left alone with children and things like that. Okay, the child went missing. I don't know the full story about why the child was considered missing, but yeah, this is the wickedness of so-called black women today. They would rather delete these children before they'll give them to the father. And then the fathers are the last ones to find out. Fathers are the last ones to find out. All right, and that's why I say it's a thing with the black community. You have so-called blacks that will defend this types of behavior, and they'll defend these so-called black women no matter what these black women's crimes are. All right, so we have this Stockholm syndrome, but I believe the oppression that so-called black men are subjected to comes from, of course, Esau, so-called America, but it's right up there. It's right up there with the so-called black woman. The so-called black woman is right there oppressing the so-called black men. There is no black. The black families have a zero chance of becoming a family because of these so-called black women with this types of wickedness. Not only will they delete a child, but they will destroy the chance of a family being together. They'll destroy the children. If this man is awarded custody, or if the father wants to have access to his children, they rather these children be deleted than to be with their fathers. They rather be a bad influence to these children before these children can be with a upright, spiritually upright man. Okay, I've seen it, and it's going to get worse. All right, we're seeing too many support systems that uphold wickedness in America. They uphold the wickedness of women. They uphold the wickedness of the so-called white people. Okay, I'm saying that the number one and number two oppressive people on the planet and in America is the so-called whites. We know that, and the so-called black woman. They're protected. They're a protected, destructive entity. It's the so-called whites and the so-called black women. We could talk about the black church too, but I'm saying the top two, I was saying that on one of my previous videos, is white supremacy and the oppression brought on by so-called black women. All right? Nothing else is oppressing so-called black men the most. Not the, it's the so-called whites, the black woman, and then religion. You know what I'm saying? Tell me something different if you think there's something different. But do not leave any comments, or I don't want to hear no one protecting so-called black women or defending her. Do not lawyer up for these so-called black women. I don't want to hear no defense for these so-called black women. I want to only hear you understand, because by now, 2024, all those excuses were left in 2023. There's no excuses for so-called black women being the wicked. They are the wicked. Just like the scripture says, give me any plague but the plague of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman. Okay? These women are wicked. Okay? I don't want to hear no excuses for so-called black women. I don't want to hear that they've been traumatized. I don't want to hear that, because I'm not believing that. I don't believe that black women have been traumatized to the degree that they have excuses for their own wickedness. I'm not believing that. I've had my fair share of traumas, but it didn't cause me to be wicked. That's no excuse. That's not how you defend the wickedness of these so-called black women, because they're out here making decisions. These are not mistakes. These are grown adults who are making bad decisions. These are not mistakes. So we defend mistakes. We don't defend bad decisions. Okay? We don't make excuses for bad decisions, because by the time it becomes a decision, you're out of excuses. You're exempt from having excuses. You don't have excuses. Okay? That is willfully sinning. Okay? A child is innocent. That's called murder. Okay? So I'm looking at it like, I just wanted to put this out there because, like I said before, protecting black women will be the death of children and the death of men. Okay? There's no excuses for these so-called black women. All right? And their bad decisions. All right? Like I said, mistakes, sure, you could defend mistakes, but bad decisions and willfully sinning, I don't defend that. These women have a tendency to not be corrected, and the support systems that they have don't believe they need to be corrected either. These so-called black women and single motherhood is a bad influence over children and the opportunities for families. Okay, like I said, for only raising children to be debtors and laborers, then the jobs of fathers don't exist. Fatherhood doesn't exist if society and the so-called mothers, the so-called black mothers, are just going to raise these children to believe in religion, labor, and debt, and paying off their bills. If that's all we're doing, or that's all that's expected for a child to do, if you're only raising up a child to be religious, labor, and a debtor, then society's going to teach them that anyway. That's the new value system for so-called blacks, is just teach their children religion, labor, and debt, and how to pay debt, and then leisure, of course. Okay, vacationing and food habits, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that the so-called black community has watered itself down to a low degree. Supporting single motherhood, on my mama, that's on my mama. You all about your mama. And the fathers, that's why I put a video out that's saying America's the worst place to want to be a father in. Once I took a look around and seen how everyone else has given up on fatherhood, then I gave up on fatherhood. I don't fault a so-called black man for giving up on fatherhood when his whole community has given up on fatherhood. There's no authority in being a father. There's no authority in being a responsible man. So if I have to focus on my position as a man instead of focusing on that position of being a father. I'd rather focus on being a man because there is no authority that comes with the responsibility of being a father. You're damn near equal to the woman, so the child don't even have to come to you for nothing, and they don't even view the fathers as nothing but a damn ATM. They don't need a man's consent and a man's authority. He has to make six figures just to have some authority as a father. You know what I'm saying? You got to damn near be a trick, or a lick to these children and to these mothers for them to turn to you. And then if you're not trying to break bread with them, if you was a six-figure man in America, they're gonna go through the courts and try to put you on and try to come after you for alimony and child support and stuff like that. So this is the worst place to be a father if you don't have some spiritual value, some divine relationship where your woman is keeping the commandments with you. Okay, fatherhood is off limits for men. That's why I said I don't fault men who give up on wanting to be a father in America, because that's the whole so-called black community does not regard fatherhood. They don't look at fatherhood as worth anything. I've heard so-called black women say he ain't shit because he don't have no money. I've heard children shun their fathers because he ain't shit because he don't break bread. Okay, they have this female mentality. They want this transactional relationship with their father. So fathers have to fend for themselves and make sure their affairs are in order before they become an old man, and make sure they're gonna make sure their affairs are in order so that they can, live a correct life and die without, without some sort of, faults coming around him. Because the families don't give a damn about fathers. You don't want to die around none of these individuals. You don't even want to die around your own people, because they won't have your interest. They won't have your interests at heart. My father died, and he died on the floor of his apartment, and his children that he had with this other woman, they robbed his house. They robbed his house. They made sure they went in his safe and took his valuables and left him on the floor for 7 hours. He was on the floor dead in the front room while they're stealing things out of his house. It took for me to talk to the paramedics and tell them to get my father off the damn floor, man, because his other children were just taking his shit. So it really hit home with me. I'm not dying around these niggas, man. You know what I'm saying? They don't give a damn about me being a father. When I was trying to, be a father, I was the only one that cared about me being a father. I got so much pushback from the women, the so-called black women. Nobody gave a damn about me wanting to be a father, man, but me. As soon as I realized that nobody gave a damn about fathers and men being fathers, I gave up on that shit. In America, hell yeah. I'd rather be a father in the kingdom. Okay? I'd rather be a husband in the kingdom. Lord willing, I make it out of here, you know what I'm saying, on those chariots. But I'd rather be a father and a husband in the kingdom, man. This place, America, is the worst place to want to be a father, man. It's the worst place to want to be a husband, man. It doesn't exist over here. This place gonna wax worse, man. Whoever the father is of this child just lost his child to one of these single mothers, man. You know what I'm saying? And while the community is in shock, nah, man, the communities are full of other single mothers, man. You know what I'm saying? And all they gonna do is continue to be single mothers, man. Nobody cares about these women except for these children and these agencies and whoever's using these so-called black women to destroy the black family. So that's all I got. You know what I'm saying? Shalom.